This is the plaintiff, Frank Giuliano. He says he hired the defendant, an attorney at law, to help him recover money a construction company stole from him. He's completely unsatisfied with the defendant's work. It's been over a year and nothing has been done. He's suing for $2,850, the amount he's owed. This is the defendant, Gary Grant. He says he did a lot of work for the plaintiff and spoke to his contractor's lawyer and things were moving along. Then COVID hit and he hasn't heard from the plaintiff in 14 months. He knows his client's frustrated, but he has 2 years to litigate and he just needs to be patient. He's accused of taking the money and running.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case of the docket. The plaintiff hired the defendant, a lawyer, to represent him in court and says the guy did squat. But the defendant says the wheels of justice grind slowly. And he's seeing the plaintiff's case through, and the guy just has to be more patient. It's the case of you're out of order.
Thank you, Douglas. All right, Mr. Giuliano, what happened?
So basically, on September 18th, I hired Gary Grant
of 2020?
Of 2019.
2019. Okay.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I hired him to sue this construction company that was putting an addition on my house, and they kind of screwed me over, and they beat me out of about $30,000 to $35,000. So anyway, I hired Gary. I met up with him at his office. I gave him a check for $3,500, and he said, "Okay, you got a good case, and we can go with that." So he said,
but what was your understanding of the agreement? Did you sign anything?
I signed an agreement with Gary stipulating that he's gonna go after him and try to sue him in court and yada yada and stuff like that.
Do you have that agreement?
I couldn't find it. I'll be honest with you.
Did you sign it? Is it your recollection you signed it?
I believe I did. If I didn't really look at it. If it's there, then
Mr. Grant, do you have a signed retainer?
Your Honor, I have an email from the client accepting the retainer language in my email, which is in the paper. So yes, in a sense, we have.
What's the date of the email you want me to look at?
September 20th, 2019 at 1:50 p.m.
Okay, so the understanding was an hourly rate of $350 per hour plus expenses. So the $3,500 was representing 10 hours of billable time.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, so you're unhappy with his services, Mr. Grant. Tell me why you're unhappy. What happened?
So basically, he took my money, and we agreed on this. I'm not going to say I didn't agree on it. And so 3-4 weeks go by, and I didn't hear anything from him. So I sent him a text because I just feel that he should have been keeping up with it. And I sent to him, "Good morning. Listen, it's been a long time. I don't think this is going to work. You're just too busy for me. Just please give me back my money and we'll go from there."
Was he ignoring your texts or your emails or?
Well, I tried calling him on occasions during the process, and being that I had his cell phone number, I figured texting would be the best way because he would have to look at it.
So is that a yes or a no? Were you texting and he wasn't, and he was ignoring you?
He was ignoring me,
Okay,
yes.
so you text him and you say, "Good morning, Gary. I hope everything is well. I'm guessing you're much too busy to do with my lawsuit. This is the 3rd week that you kept me at bay. 3 Mondays in a row. You said you were going to call me, but I just guessed you're just too busy. So how about you just return the check and I'll just get some other lawyer to help me out. No worries and thank you." And he responds, "Frank, the letter is done. I apologize. I will call you around 1 if that works so we can finalize and get that out. I know you've been patient, but I am the right lawyer for this job. So let's get going. Thanks." You say, "Gary, seriously, I can't afford to keep you on retainer. So can you close it out and just send me a bill, whatever's left from my retainer?" And his response is, "Give me a week to get back to you after reaching out to the attorney. And I usually play phone tag. Thanks. Regards, Gary." Gary, seriously, I can't afford to keep you on retainer, so can you just close it out and send me a bill for whatever's left? Don't ask him for a settlement because that would cost me $500. To which your attorney, Mr. Grant, answers, no, Frank, the phone call will probably be 15 minutes, which would cost you $80. But having said that, I'm not going to charge you to make the phone call. Let me know if it's okay to call the attorney and settle for the $15,000. I got an email last week.
Way later.
So he says, I got an email last night. He's awaiting proposed dates with his client. Will advise, sit tight. It's worth having a meeting before you do anything further. You say to him, do you remember, I just want to make sure you remember that you're not going to charge me extra for this. If we settle, I'll compensate you for that. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, wow.
If we get a settlement, then I'll compensate him. If he gets me my $15,000,
how much would you compensate him?
We didn't get into that.
All right. So he says, if what you're saying, Mr. Grant responds, if what you're saying is that I'm not looking for any further fees to have the meeting, I would agree with you. That's my recollection. Thanks. What did you mean by that, Mr. Grant? Because what you have done here in court, there never was a meeting. Nothing happened. So if you're saying you wouldn't charge him for that meeting and the meeting didn't take place, why then, when he sues you, are you not giving him anything back of the retainer?
Your Honor, one of my exhibits is the actual bill for services rendered, which identifies that even before the meeting, the retainer was expended. He has not.
Well, then why did you text that? Why did you text? I just read a series of texts that don't give me. Yes, I know you didn't have contemporaneous records along with your expenditure of time, right? You created that for court. This whole thing that shows I spent 0.5, I spent that, whatever. That's something that was created for court once he sued you, correct?
Exactly.
I'm not talking to you, Mr. Giuliano. I'm talking to Mr. Grant. You can't possibly answer that.
There are contemporaneous notes of the time reflected, but you're absolutely right. The bill itself was created for this proceeding because until 8 weeks ago, I didn't know I was going to be sued.
I saw a lot of handwritten notes. I never saw any that documented how much time you spent.
Well, I didn't submit those because I just put them into the bill. But that's how I.
Do you have them with you now?
No, I don't have them. Not.
That's kind of what the case is about, though, isn't it? Isn't he saying my foot you did? That's really his accusation against you is, no, you didn't. You didn't spend 10 hours. That's his accusation.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me what you did in the case.
Okay, absolutely. After speaking with him, I believe he came back to my office one other time because I had some questions. And then I prepared. First, I did the legal research, which we had sent him the 4 cases that I felt were relevant. And then I prepared the demand letter, at which time we engaged in attempting to have the.
But why didn't it happen? Why didn't a conference happen in 2 years? Statute of limitations is ticking, right?
But Your Honor, in fairness, if you look at the emails, there are numerous, I would say 20 emails or more between counsel and I. And then at one point in one of the emails where he says on August 2nd, I can reach out to him, but I know he does not want to settle. From the beginning, your client that he had successfully sued other contractors in the past and that he was going to sue Bob too. And the only reason the job was not completed was because your client fired Bob. Consequently, I do not understand where your client thinks he is going with this case.
So, Mr. Giuliano, tell me what communication you've had with your attorney since the pandemic hit.
So basically, the last text I said to him was, hey, Gary, it's been more than 2 weeks since we spoke. You said you'd get a final bill out to me. Can you please send me this so we can get back together? If I don't hear from you in a week, I'm going to report you to the bar. You never, ever sent me one bill. I did it before to a divorce lawyer who screwed me, and I'll do it again. I have no problem at all. It's only a form letter and $50. And he said, Frank, I hope you and your family are well. I received your text messages, which are really unnecessary because, as I mentioned previously before, we were ordered to stay home by governor's executive order. Frank, I just sent you an email, and that was the email he was talking about. And then after that, that was it. So the last message I got from him was April 1st of
this year.
2020.
2020.
20, yeah. See, it says it right there on the phone. And I told him, just give me my bill. and he never, ever sent me one bill acknowledging anything. He just strung me along.
Mr. Grant, can I ask you why in 2 years you never, ever accounted with the client for the 10 hours?
Simple reason was we had agreed from the beginning I was not going to go to court. So at my plan was, and he was aware.
You're not answering me, though, because the question that I'm asking you is on numerous occasions that we've read already out loud, he says, I want to cut my losses. That's it. Send me an accounting and give me the excess. On numerous occasions in your text, you represent to him, hey, for whatever this meeting's going to, I'm not even going to charge you. So just let me try to settle it for you. Relax. And I won't even charge you for that part of it. That part of it never happens. And then all of a sudden, oh, what are you talking about? I used up the whole thing. It just because it kind of doesn't fit. You see? And it bothers me. It does bother me. Of course, you bother me too, Mr. Giuliano, suggesting that the work we have talked about is worth $650. I don't know what planet you're on when you say that.
I felt a couple hours because when I left the office...
Okay, I don't want to hear anymore. Stop talking. Everybody just stop talking. We're done. I'm going to estimate what I think it was worth. And this underscores the importance, particularly when a client is asking to get an accounting of how much time you've spent on it, of giving a client an accounting. You keep implying that you haven't used up the 10 hours in these texts. And then all of a sudden, when he sues you, you used up the 10 hours. I'm ordering the defendant to pay the plaintiff back the sum of $1,000. That's my judgment.
So the plaintiff prevails. He's going to get $1,000 back, not the $2,850 he had been suing for. Mr. Grant, the attorney, what's your reaction to the judge's decision?
I worked hard for this gentleman, and unfortunately, he doesn't feel that way.
Let me ask you, interesting, you're in your office. What's the picture behind you over your shoulder?
I tell people it's Thomas Edison, but I really don't know.
But you're not sure. Okay.
No, I really don't know.
Sorry about that. The judge is found against you in this case. Mr. Giuliano, what happens now? I mean, he's not your attorney anymore on this case.
I'm
you have someone else working on this case? Oh, how do you think that's going to go?
Well, I've sued a bunch of people in the past, and normally I do win because I wouldn't sue somebody if I felt that I couldn't win.
Well, good luck. Okay, you are getting $1,000 back there, so you've prevailed here. All right, so congratulations. Harvey?
Doug, one way of getting your money quick, call the state bar and file a complaint.
What would you be doing if you couldn't do any more with the law?
If I couldn't continue working in the law in some respect after about 33 or so years of just the law, what would I do? So what am I qualified for outside the law? I'm thinking water slide tester, maybe something like that.
Water slide tester?
That's something I could really,
sink your teeth into.
Yeah, that's a career I could sink my teeth into.
What would you want to do if you weren't doing the law?
Well, what I would want to do, I'd want to do more writing, but since I've only published articles in newspapers twice in the last 15 or 20 years, I'm not sure that I'm that inspired that I'm going to be able to crank out the work. So right now, I like the job I got.
Yeah.